Ladies and gentlemen, it's November 5th, 2024, and we have the US presidential elections. Who is it going to be? Will we have Donald Trump, former US president and brash businessman, come back to the White House? Or will we have the first female president, Kamala Harris? Now, generally, around the world, in other election cycles, whenever someone gets more votes, they win the elections, right? If you get more votes than your rival, you win the elections. But in the US, even if you get more votes than your opponent, there are chances that you still lose the election. So, for example, in 2016, November 8th, US presidential elections, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. She earned 3 million more votes than Trump, yet she lost the elections. So, how does that work? So, my name is Ejaz Bhalloo. I'm an author and speaker from Tanzania, and you can catch me on Instagram at Ejaz Bhalloo. Now, in the US, you have something called the Electoral College, the electoral system. Each state gets a number of electors or electoral votes based on its population size. So, there are different states in the US, right? There's New York, California, Washington, Texas, Tennessee. Now, each state has a number of electoral votes. And the more states you win, the more electoral votes you get, and the chances of you becoming president increases. So there are total of 538 electoral votes, and in order to become president, you must get to 270. That's the magic number, 270, in order to become the president. Okay, now, again, I hope we are all on the same page. Even if you get more votes than your opponent, it doesn't necessarily mean that you win the elections. If you get 270 electoral votes based on the number of states that you have won, then you become the president. Then you win the elections. Now, in the US, you have something called the swing states, or we call them battleground states or purple states. Here, the voters are normally divided. So sometimes Democrats win this state, or sometimes Republicans win. Now, there are certain states where Republicans generally win and Democrats generally win. So, Washington, Democrats predominantly dominate Washington. So, whenever there's an election, Democrats win Washington. On the other hand, you have Texas. Texas is a red state, a Republican state. Now, some states in the US, they are undecided. Sometimes they go with the Democrat, or sometimes they go with the Republican leader. Example, Florida, Pennsylvania, Michigan. Point to be noted, Florida has become more red over the past few years. Since Trump won in 2016, won again in 2020, and of course, with Governor Ron DeSantis, Florida has become a predominantly red state. That doesn't mean things can't change. Maybe we are in for a shock. Maybe we have a political realignment. But these things are black swan events. Swing states, again, we aren't sure whether Trump will win Michigan or Kamala Harris, whether Trump will win Pennsylvania or Kamala Harris. So these are swing states. They can either be favorable for Kamala or be favorable for Trump. So you need to win 270 electoral votes in order to become president. So for instance, if Trump wins Florida by any margin, let's say he gets 1,000 more votes than Kamala Harris in the elections, he carries 30 electoral votes. So Florida has 30 electoral votes. Again, you'll see many of these candidates campaigning in places like Michigan, Arizona, Pennsylvania, North Carolina. Why? Again, they are swing states. You won't see Trump spending a lot of time in New York or Washington because why? They are Democrat states. Democrats have a strong hold in these states. Alternatively, you won't see Kamala Harris campaigning much in Texas. Now, again, what if we see a shock? Things happen. Shit happens, as they say. However, mostly you'll have Kamala Harris winning Washington, California, New York, and Trump will win Tennessee, Texas, Ohio. However, the crucial states are the swing states. So California carries 55 electoral votes, the most in the US. You have Texas 40 electoral votes, Florida, New York with 28 electoral votes. Then you have Pennsylvania, which is a swing state. Ohio, it is a swing state, but mostly it leans Republican. However, over the last few years, we have seen Democratic candidates win Ohio. So these are the key swing states. There are 10 key swing states: Florida, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, Arizona, Wisconsin, Nevada, and New Hampshire. 7 are the main swing states, but let's say in total we have 10 swing states. They can either lean Kamala or lean towards Trump. Oops. Okay, we understand the concept of swing state, and therefore you see campaigns happening in these swing states. The politicians there, local politicians will go door to door asking for votes, campaign funds, advertising. A lot of it is on the swing states. So in 2016, when Trump won that shock election, he won 304 electoral votes, and he won states like Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Kentucky. But look at the star. Look at these. Look at the star here, Michigan. So Trump won the swing state of Michigan. He won Wisconsin. He won Pennsylvania in the Northeast. And Hillary Clinton ended up with 227 votes, and Trump won with 304 electoral votes. So as you see here, these are the states won by Trump, the red states: Iowa, Nebraska, Montana, and then you have the states won by Hillary Clinton. So New York, Minnesota, Colorado, these are all Democrat strongholds. Then in 2020, US presidential elections, again, they happen under very, very unnatural circumstances. We had the COVID-19, we had people voting from their homes, and Joe Biden won that election. He won the state of Arizona, Georgia, but look at the margin, very, very small margin. So Georgia, he won Michigan. Remember, 2016, Trump won Michigan. 2020, Biden won Michigan. Swing states, battleground states. It can either lean Democrat or Republican. Biden won Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. Pennsylvania and Wisconsin won by Trump in 2016. But in 2020, Biden won these states. Okay, so what are my predictions? To be very honest, this election is very, very tight, because if you look at the polling data, 49% Harris, 49% Trump. It's literally a tie. And in some key swing states, you see Trump leading. In other key swing states, you see Harris leading. So again, this election is going to be very, very tight. Now, there are those who say that Kamala Harris will win the elections and she'll win decisively. Why? Number one, because of her stand on abortion. We know that the Trump appointed Supreme Court judges, they overruled Roe v. Wade, and millions of American women lost their access to health care. So a lot of women were enraged with Trump, and they said that they'll make Trump pay for this during the elections. So number one, you have the abortion laws. And we also saw in different states in the 2022 primaries, the midterm elections, where a lot of women voted against Trump-endorsed candidates simply because of abortion. So that's number one. Number two, Trump has drifted further into extremism. We saw his comments in the debate with Kamala Harris. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, in reference to Haitian immigrants. So Trump has become more unhinged as per some political experts and analysts, and he has aligned himself with certain far-right groups that exist. And some of these far-right groups are literally neo-Nazis. So that's another challenge that Trump faces, especially because many Americans do not like seeing a presidential candidate drift further into extremism. Then Kamala Harris, she can say that, look, I am not Joe Biden. I never had any executive power. I was just the vice president. Again, that still holds a lot of power, But she can say, hey, I never really had executive power. And therefore, why don't you try electing me? You already had Trump as your leader, you had him as your president. He's basically running as the incumbent. I have never been, quote unquote, the head of the table. So why don't you vote for me? So again, Kamala Harris is not Joe Biden. And in the same light, Trump was president and Kamala Harris has never been president. And again, if she wins the election, it is going to be a historic moment. We have seen many minority groups now. We see her surging in the polls with certain minority groups who are not willing to vote for Biden, but they are more willing to vote for Kamala Harris. Then there are those who make the case for Trump. They claim that Biden has had a disastrous foreign policy, whether it be arming and funding Netanyahu's assault on Gaza or Russia and Ukraine. Now, I'm not saying that it's all Biden's fault, but he has been overseeing these wars. So, Russia and Ukraine, China and Taiwan. Although Trump himself has said that he will make sure that he continues providing funding and weapons to Netanyahu. But many Arab American voters and Muslims have said that no, we won't vote for the guy currently in charge who's overseeing a genocide in Gaza. So that's number one. Number two, the economy. We see inflation rates skyrocketing and surging. Again, recently we have seen a dip, we have seen a decline. However, many Americans still can't afford groceries and basic necessities. And there are other key economic indicators that show that there are many Americans who are hurting economically. Then we have his approval rating. He has a 39% approval rating, which is historically low for any other modern president. And recently, in an NBC poll, voters were asked, what are your views on Trump? How do you view Trump? And 48% said that they view Trump favorably, retrospectively. Now, what are my predictions? I think it's going to be a very, very close election. I think Trump will win this election. Razor thin margin. I think Trump will pull it off. He will win the presidential elections and he will be the 47th president. But again, these are my predictions. In 2016, I predicted Trump would win. I was confident about it. In 2020, I also predicted that Biden would win. I was confident about it because of the whole COVID-19 situation, Black Lives Matter, George Floyd. But with this election, I think it's going to be very tight. It's anybody's game. But I think personally that Trump will win the elections. Thank you very much for joining me. And you can follow my Instagram page at Ejaz Bhalloo and like and subscribe and comment. Thank you very much.